Washington, Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said on Wednesday that it's possible that the US will have to coordinate with the Taliban on any future counterterrorism strikes in Afghanistan against Islamic State militants or others. The Taliban, said Milley, is a ruthless group, and whether or not they change remains to be seen. He added, in war you do what you must in order to reduce risk to mission and force, not what you necessarily want to do. Speaking 2 days after the finalist troops left Afghanistan at the close of a turbulent and deadly evacuation of more than American citizens, Afghans and others, Milley and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told Pentagon reporters that it's hard to predict the future of the Taliban in Afghanistan. I would not make any leaps of logic to broader issues, said Austin. Both men commended troops in Afghanistan during the 20-year war, and their comments on Wednesday largely focused on tributes to those who served, who died and who were wounded in the conflict, and to those who executed the complex airlift over the past 3 weeks. With the US involvement in the war over and all American military out of the country, President Joe Biden is grappling with the prospects of a new relationship with the Taliban, the Islamist militant group the US toppled after the September 11, 2001, attacks in America, and that is now once again in power in Afghanistan. Biden has tasked Secretary of State Antony Blinken with coordinating with international partners to hold the Taliban to their promise of safe passage for Americans and others who want to leave in the days ahead. Marine General Frank McKenzie, head of US Central Command, has described the US relationship with the Taliban during the evacuation as very pragmatic and very businesslike, saying they helped secure the airport. But other reports from people in Afghanistan describe shootings, violence and Taliban moves to block desperate Afghans from getting through the gates. Biden, in an address to the nation on Tuesday, called the US airlift an extraordinary success, though more than 100 Americans and thousands of others were left behind. And he vigorously defended his decision to end America's longest war and withdraw all US troops by an August 31 deadline. I was not going to extend this forever war, Biden declared from the White House. And I was not going to extend a forever exit. Biden has faced tough questions about the way the US went about leaving Afghanistan, a chaotic evacuation with spasms of violence, including a suicide bombing last week that killed 13 American service members and 169 Afghans. He is coming under heavy criticism, particularly from Republicans, for his handling of the evacuation. But he said it was inevitable that the final departure from 2 decades of war, first negotiated with the Taliban from May 1 by former President Donald Trump, would have been difficult, with likely violence, no matter when it was planned and conducted. To those asking for a 3rd decade of war in Afghanistan, I ask, what is the vital national interest? Biden said. He added, I simply do not believe that the safety and security of America is enhanced by continuing to deploy thousands of American troops and spending billions of dollars in Afghanistan. A number of Republicans, and some Democrats, have contended that the US would have been better served maintaining a small military footprint in Afghanistan. Before last week's suicide attack, the US military had not suffered a combat casualty since February 2020, around the time the Trump administration brokered its deal with the Taliban to end the war by May of this year. Biden said breaking the Trump deal would have restarted a shooting war. He said those who favor remaining at war also failed to recognize the weight of deployment, with a scourge of PRES, financial struggles, divorce and other problems for US troops. And Biden also pushed back against criticism that he fell short of his pledge to get all Americans out of the country ahead of the US military withdrawal. He said many of the Americans left behind are dual citizens, some with deep family roots that are complicating their ability to leave Afghanistan. Biden repeated his argument that ending the Afghanistan war was a crucial step for recalibrating American foreign policy toward growing challenges posed by China and Russia, and counterterrorism concerns that pose a more potent threat to the US. In Biden's view, the war could have ended 10 years ago with the US killing of Osama bin Laden, whose al-Qaeda extremist network planned and executed the 9/11 plot from an Afghanistan sanctuary. Al-Qaeda has been vastly diminished, preventing it thus far from again attacking the United States. The president lamented an estimated $2 trillion of taxpayer money that was spent fighting the war. Congressional committees, whose interest in the war waned over the years, are expected to hold public hearings on what went wrong in the final months of the US withdrawal. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, RCALF, on Tuesday described the Biden administration's handling of the evacuation as probably the biggest failure in American government on a military stage in my lifetime, and promised that Republicans would press the White House for answers. Ad block test why.